right, I'm going to get started here. So welcome again to the OpenSpace webinar. We will be reviewing how to quantify and look at the value of reality capture as you're using OpenSpace on your project. I'll quickly introduce myself. My name is Phillips. I'm a senior solutions engineer here at OpenSpace. I've been with the company for 3 years. Background in project management and construction, originally from the San Francisco area. Moved into construction technology in 2016. Was fortunate enough to join OpenSpace when I was living abroad in Spain. So I've had the joy of working with our global customers in Europe. I'm back in the United States now and continuing to work with our leading GC owner and trades contractors in the United States. So what we'll talk about today is ROI, the value of using reality capture and OpenSpace on your projects. There's a Q&A box that we're monitoring live. So please, if you have any questions, drop them into the chat or the Q&A, and then we will answer those. And you will also receive a recording at the end of this. So to get started, why ROI, how you can reduce costs, the efficiencies that you can, realize by using OpenSpace, how to win more. So, documenting existing projects is fantastic, but how can you leverage OpenSpace to win more work? And then we'll jump into the Q&A. So why do we need to talk about ROI? The customers I'm working with, there's a need to understand really why you're investing in technology. So as a project team, as an operations team, how do you answer to executives and leadership that the investment you're making in technology is justified? So you need to start looking at the return on that investment. And what we'll discuss today is not just, hard monetary savings, by, defending a change order, justifying that payment or, justifying it shouldn't be paid, but also the soft values of using OpenSpace, where your teams are working faster, and as a result of that, RFIs get solved quicker, and perhaps there's just fewer RFIs on a project in general. So to kick things off, I'm going to play a video from McLaren, who is discussing with us, the challenge of the margins on projects. Projects are getting bigger, but timelines are getting tighter and margins are decreasing. So technology can help to address that. And that's what McLaren will be sharing in this quick clip.
It's a low margin, tier one contracting, which is mainly where I am, is a low margin. It's a low margin game. A £1 billion business might return 3%. One good year might return 4%, and there's many bad years. Or you've only got to look at the consolidation of the tier one market in the last couple of years. And so, it is really a game of mitigating risk. So when you bring in technology, it's productivity. It's also about, managing risk. It's, are you bringing in something that's going to manage that risk that's protecting those margins? And, I'll use other examples, Thomas, as we go through this, but OpenSpace is a clear one that where we've brought it in, essentially the buy there at the board level to get that investment to get into that enterprise was purely around mitigation of risk, managing risk, controlling risk. And you've got to link it back, as Angela says, you've got to link it back to that to get the board approvals, because, I'm tackling with the board here, loads of people are going for investment around other issues in the business. This is just one, but when you're landing on productivity, mitigating risk, growing that margin, protecting the margin, that's where you've got to focus. You've got to tie it back to those things.
As James, showed there, the ability to mitigate risk, to manage risk, in construction, managing risk is a, key aspect to making sure you meet your margin projections. And, leadership, the executives are always checking to make sure that the investments you're making are helping to contribute to the margins. And, managing risk, increasing productivity and efficiency are two key parts of that. So the focus, again, is the ROI of reality capture. So what does that mean with OpenSpace? So with OpenSpace, we are a fast, easy way to capture your job site. And the benefits you get from that is, the scalability. We're deployed on thousands of projects, globally. Millions of square feet have been captured within OpenSpace, and that allows us to scale up to any size project, and then also deliver the imagery in 15 to 20 minutes. So your teams located anywhere can access that. So you get your capture done quickly. You can understand, where you are in your project, whether you're on site or not on site. And then most importantly, you can take action based on the imagery that's been collected. So the ability to coordinate and communicate in an image-based fashion. You can send a message, you can send an email, but to get the real context of what's happening, you need to go beyond the words. And, the imagery is what allows you to have richer discussions and get to resolution faster. So with OpenSpace, the key factor with our platform is, on the right, you can see it's web-based. And then on the left, you can see it's mobile-based. We work on iOS and Android. So the benefit there and the success of construction technology depends on bridging the gap, the information gap between the office and the field. When you're connecting the office and the field and increasing the speed of communication, you're able to find resolution and increase productivity, efficiency, and manage risk better. You just have to have a platform that's allowing richer communication. And that's what the OpenSpace platform is providing. So how do we look at, reducing cost, increasing efficiency, and winning more? So these are the key topics we'll be addressing: the benefit of remote site visibility, the ability to prevent rework, resolving disputes faster, paying less for insurance, and making faster data-driven decisions. Not just, assumptions, but actually having the data to make an informed decision and, get the progress advancing again. Improve collaboration, I've mentioned that quite a few times, that field office connectivity, and also, site to remote personnel connectivity. And then we'll talk about how you can win more projects with OpenSpace. And finally, addressing the number one concern of any tech: if you make an investment, how is it going to be adopted? Will it even be adopted? And that is an important aspect that you need to focus on as well when you're looking at your technology stack. So starting with really the core of what drove OpenSpace to its leadership right now is the ability to connect remote personnel with the job site. So reducing the site visits, having wider access across the team. You're not requiring people to come and visit the job site to understand what's going on. You can go on your iPad, your Android device, your computer, and understand what's happening day to day. So the remote site visibility, it directly impacts the amount of travel. So a hard dollar, number, the $58,000 that Nibby saved by not having to travel, and that was just on one project. I've worked with companies in Europe to calculate the CO2 impact of personnel not having to travel, and it's thousands of kilograms per project being saved. So that applies directly to your green initiatives. JLL cut site visits by 50%. So many of our customers have this data because now with a 360 image, you have more context. It's not an email, it's not a still 2D photo where you might actually need to know what's going on behind you. With OpenSpace, you can quickly spin around and see the context behind you and not wait for another photo to come out or another video or something like that. It's there and waiting for you to use. So with this video here, we're gonna get into the time savings and specifically how King & Moffat is getting into the value of BIM coordination by using remote teams. Finding good people is hard. So when you find them, you want them to have as much information as possible to contribute to the success of a project.
And we've even got a couple of like full-time BIM and engineers working for us in different locations in different countries, nowhere near Ireland and the UK. And it's great that they can dive in and get a feel for the job without having to get on a flight for 12 or 15 hours to get over. So it's cutting out a lot of the need for travel.
And another example, this will be Big State Electric talking about the value of remote access to project managers. We're all getting stretched. You know, labor is a constraint that only seems to be increasing. The only thing increasing faster might be the decrease in schedule to deliver these incredible projects that owners want. So Big State Electric is seeing the value of remote access for the project management.
Implementation is so easy and it's so affordable, and your gain coming back from that is huge. Super low hanging fruit if you wanted to dip into this technology. You know, we talked about CYA aspect, you know, given the ability to have, and you know, we're coming back to the workforce, right? You have more jobs with less PMs, so these PMs are having to spend more times on these jobs. They are able to, with the click of a button, go and view all these jobs from their desk, right?
Yeah.
And to have that kind of mobility from not having to move, you know, and being able to see everything at the price point that you're looking at, just the hours of travel from the office to the job sites is going to pay for your subscription and your hardware in a year, you know?
Yeah.
So, you know, if I'm saying, what I say is if you're not using it, you need to look into it.
So it just reiterates the benefit of having remote access. You're getting richer information to people without requiring them to be on site or wait for information to be delivered via text, email, you know, any other source of information, and to have that 360 imagery providing a real context about what is happening within the job site. So moving from the benefit of remote access into preventing rework, so really reducing costs. So 10 to 30% of all work performed in construction is rework. I came from construction. It's an industry of fantastic people. I'll never leave it. People don't want to go out and make mistakes. But the problem is that you can't get the information to the point of attack in an efficient fashion. So that's what OpenSpace is doing. And also just documenting what's happened on the job site allows you to, you know, dispute change orders or rework, or even just have the context of, is backing installed in this room? You can use OpenSpace to go back in time and understand, yes, backing was installed. We don't have to go through and cut walls open and verify things. We know it's there. You know, save tens of thousands of dollars doing that over and over again across a project, and you're more than paying for the investment in OpenSpace. Also, the ability to have BIM included. So what is the design intent? What do we currently have in place? And then our BIM overlay tool that you're seeing on the right here allows you to drop elements in place and understand, will it even fit? And if it doesn't fit, let's address that now and get it fixed before we put work up and find out something's gone wrong. And then all of us have to go through the, you know, horrible process of eating that cost and impacting our margins. So, you know, Kitchell was able to avoid $30,000 on one project, you know, just by having the documentation in place. You can see, you know, a 4-minute Western partition here talking about how OpenSpace was paid for in the first third of a project, just because they're able to have the information at hand to, you know, understand, do we need to do work here? Is this change order the right type of approach? Enriching those conversations. And now I'm going to show a video from a conversation we had with Consigli, talking about the benefit of using reality capture to coordinate between teams and prevent rework, making sure that what's being installed is per design intent and avoiding any conflicts or costly situations coming up.
Well, so the mass timber project we're working on now, I think one of the key things, we spent 9 months at the beginning of this project coordinating all penetrations through the CLT deck and the mass timber beams, you know, which is, you have the benefit of being able to do that ahead of time and have them shop fabricated with mass timber. So what we're doing now is we're making sure that those efforts are realized in the field, and we're using you know, OpenSpace and the BIM Plus tool as sort of a QC in the field to first make sure that those penetrations are in the right place when each sequence is erected, and then B, making sure that they are being used appropriately by the correct subs with the right routing, and that the efforts that Alicia and her team spent 9 months plus on are sort of not falling on deaf ears in the field, and because, you know, there's layers to it, right? But there's a reason why we have shop penetrations.
So again, the ability to share context. So not just a 2D photo, a 360 image where you can understand, you know, here's the design, here's where things sit, and are we building per the design intent? moving from the coordination and avoiding rework to resolving disputes. Disputes happen. Guaranteed in construction, every single day I showed up on site, there's something to resolve. It became contentious because when I was in construction, we didn't have 360 imagery. So we didn't have the context to understand who's at fault. There's great people in this industry. We don't want to be wrong, but when we're wrong, we, admit it. Like, hey, that's on me. Let me sort this out. We'll move forward. But if it's not, you want to also be able to defend yourself because you're building relationships on every project that lead to your next project and your next relationship with either the GC or the owner or other subcontractors so that you can start to work better as a team and deliver these incredible projects you're being, handed. Again, looking at how to resolve things faster. So Broccolini saving $12,000 by knowing a contractor hadn't been on site, so they didn't need to pay that bill. Being able to review 28 buildings quickly, right? How else are you going to do that? Go walk around with a clipboard, mobile device, take some photos and hope you remember where the photos were. Just grab a camera, open up OpenSpace, track everything, and you know where the images are because OpenSpace is going to place those in the right location for you. So for here, PCI, great customer of ours, is going to talk about the savings they saw on one claim using OpenSpace.
One of the first sessions we had with some of our general foremen talking about OpenSpace, there was a gentleman who essentially said OpenSpace saved him X amount of money on a claim because we had that proper documentation. That amount of money was the same value it was for a first-year contract with OpenSpace. So right out of the gate, we had one claim that paid for itself or paid for the solution just on one situation. I'm sure there's 100 additional stories just like that we aren't aware of, but it's really making sure that you have the checks and balances in place, and you're really proving that this solution does provide value and that the return on investment is a positive value. It's not just an additional tool to put in a toolkit and maybe use it, maybe you don't. So for the contractors that do things right and hold themselves to a high level of quality standards and execution, it's worth its weight in gold because you have that documentation, you have that proof that yes, we did it right. And we don't always do it right, and we're the first to admit when we don't do it right, and we'll turn around and fix it. But without some of the value add that OpenSpace provides and the documentation, it can make that conversation a little more complex. And what we found is using this tool to have a educated conversation on real live site conditions at the time they occurred has been invaluable for us as a contractor on all scales of projects, small ones and significantly large ones. So.
Yep. So again, great example, avoiding rework. So we've gone through, discussed the benefit of remote access, just gone through the benefit of, how you decrease rework, how you decrease your costs, protect your margins. Now we're going to get into addressing the risk. So we have worked with a company called Shepherd Insurance. They did a great case study, and they've shown that by using OpenSpace, customers have fewer claims and they reduce their losses. So what does that look like? 50% less claims, 26% loss reduction. And because of that, Shepherd will reflect a 25% savings in your insurance costs. So you're starting to realize real savings by having OpenSpace on site. So, having the benefit of dropping your insurance costs shows you a real return on the investment within OpenSpace. So you can see here, here's an example of Shepherd calculating a $200,000 savings by implementing OpenSpace on a project. If you would love to learn more about this is a popular topic among our customers right now. You can reach out and we can connect, the OpenSpace and Shepherd teams to have a discussion around this. The efficiency part, this is, something that might not have a dollar value to it, but it's something that our customers are seeing, being able to capture faster, having your imagery ready in 15 minutes, using field notes and the model to coordinate and make decisions faster. It all increases how quickly you can do your work, taking you away from boring, repetitive manual processes and having information at the point of attack to make the right decisions and keep moving forward. So companies like Suffolk have accelerated project delivery by a month. I've worked with the BAM team in the Netherlands. I've seen the efficiency of their, decision-making increase, by having the right information in hand in the field, they can move forward and get things resolved in a faster manner. And, you know, in this video, we're going to show consigli again, talking about tighter schedules, the ability to connect the field in the office, and address RFIs.
Yeah, the field notes, as you're talking, like, to me, that's something that we are, you know, like, we've probably all seen the shift. Accelerated schedules are now just the norm.
Schedules are just getting
schedules.
longer.
Yeah.
They're not
So
getting shorter.
efficiencies and timing of responses are just becoming that much more important to us. So using those field notes to sort of drive that response, and even using OpenSpace to create sort of more robust RFIs that are, you know, they're more delivering a solution along with the problem so that we can get answers faster and move the work along, is key, and something that the field notes have been huge for us. Our superintendent has been using the field notes quite a bit, and we review them in our team meetings with Alicia every week. So yeah, to me that is efficiencies of having open spaces, us getting responses quicker.
So the team efficiencies, having the right information, having the right context to get things resolved and move forward faster. You know, it all comes down to collaboration. We cannot deliver these projects at the scale and speed that owners are expecting without having good collaboration. So that starts with, you know, coordinating with your own team, leveraging field notes, you know, as Consigli was just talking about, to answer and resolve RFIs faster, but also the ability of OpenSpace to connect out to platforms that are being used on, you know, large projects by our customers. So connecting with Procore, we have an integration there, connecting with the Autodesk suite, ACC, Build 360. And then now, you know, having the benefit of connecting 360 imagery to Revisto to increase BIM coordination efficiency, right? You know, it's one thing to look in a model and say, okay, we need to move this, but if you can add the context of a 360 image from the site, you know, these projects are moving so fast. You need to know what's happening in order to make a good, you know, adjustment in your BIM coordination. And that's what you get with OpenSpace, the connectivity to the entire tech stack so that you're able to deliver your projects efficiently. You know, just a couple more data points. You know, dropping scheduling delays by 20%, RG, you know, coming in 10 to 15% under budget, because you're able to manage crews better, manage resources better. It's all about efficiency and how you can better plan, not being reactive, having the information you need to be proactive. In this video, PCI is going to talk about, you know, remote access, but also the collaboration aspect.
I had a pretty significant knee injury that sidelined me from being able to walk on a project for 6 months, maybe even a little bit longer than that. So when I went down, obviously projects don't stop, right? And I wanted to be as involved as I possibly could. And so what that looked like is my team was able to take over doing the captures regularly. It kept me involved in, you know, going through the RFI processes, making sure that, you know, document control was being taken care of from a field perspective, and really feeling like I was still active when I wasn't able to be on site. And that was, I mean, really was a great tool to make me feel like I was still a part of that project, even when I physically couldn't be there. So I think that was probably one of the single greatest tools that I had in the time that I was away, to make me still feel connected to the people that I was working with in the field, and feel like I still have the same impact. You know, maybe not necessarily just being in the field and being able to walk the conditions, but being able to talk about them specifically by just looking at the footage.
Yep. So combination, the remote access, the continued collaboration with the team, allowing people to feel they're still contributing to the success of a project in spite of an injury. So moving from remote access to, you know, controlling costs, insurance savings, collaboration, into how can OpenSpace help you win more projects? On the right, you can see a time-lapse video. This is a great way to go into an owner meeting and share the progress on, you know, a floor. You know, just run through this. I've heard of contractors going into meetings and using OpenSpace to guide the discussion. There's hundreds of questions that need to be addressed, but it is very easy with OpenSpace to identify the key 5 to 10 and then navigate and get those answers that you need in these weekly meetings so that you can keep the project team moving forward. It all comes down to delivering an incredible experience. So using OpenSpace to deliver a 5-star experience to your customers. You know, have them involved, show them how their project is moving along and how they can answer questions for you, and also just feel good about the work that you're doing. So building better relationships with your clients. You know, this also moves into the pre-construction or bidding phase. You can use OpenSpace to go out and capture a TI project to make sure that people are giving you accurate bids. Your estimating can be more accurate because you get one chance to walk the job site. You might not capture all of the information, but having that 360 walk allows you to have more context and provide a, you know, better price going into the project. And then a quick
You know, Alicia was talking about value add as in when we review technologies, what's their value add to us? And I think where OpenSpace, in my personal experience, has basically been, you know, worth its weight in gold is the closeout process. So obviously everything that we just talked about is like a day-to-day. We are using it every day. We're using it for our owners meeting. But when you get to the closeout process, you know, we put we really care about creating raving fans. As you've seen, it 73% of our work is repeat clients. That's a huge part of my day-to-day, is building those relationships. You can have the best job in the world, and an extended closeout can just leave a bad taste in an owner's mouth, right? So the closeout process, we are continuously trying to improve. Having the OpenSpace captures has personally allowed me to more efficiently close out a job. One of my last projects, I ended up closing out an adjacent project as we had some team turnover, and we were able to really get through the punch list, and we were given a really tight deadline. We were able to get through that with a lot of help from the OpenSpace captured we have, closing things out that were then covered up by millwork or behind walls or you know, above ceilings that they didn't want disturbed because the building was turned over. So to me, any tool that can allow us to better deliver in the closeout process, which I really think OpenSpace has, in my personal experience, is very valuable. It adds a true value add to us in terms of keeping that relationship with the client. And you know, we've learned closeout is oftentimes where things can go awry. So it's been a super valuable tool for us in that sense.
Yeah. So the benefit of ending a project well, you know, the last impression you have with your client is the most valuable one. You can overcome some of the bumps in the middle by delivering an excellent experience to close a project out. Now, a lot of opportunities. You've seen a lot of value created, both from a monetary standpoint and then from a more soft value standpoint, the efficiency increases, things like that. But really what it comes down to is the classic 3-part problem. You have your people, you have your processes, and then you have the technology that is there to support your people and your process. But technology cannot support your people and process if it is never adopted, right? I've been on sites at my previous construction technology companies, and I've seen iPads used to level desks in job trailers. You know, those were an incredible investment for the company, but because the technology didn't deliver value to the people on site, it wasn't being leveraged. So you have to make sure that your technology is being adopted and you're driving value with that investment. So here we're going to see a quick video talking about the adoption of OpenSpace.
And just the general use of and the ease of navigating either, you know, via the website or via the app. To put it in perspective, I've got a 62-year-old guy doing all my captures who's you know, pretty much had an analog phone up until about a year ago. And I'm not joking. And he does all the captures and he does it loyally. And then, you know, we do one a day, we do the full building, and it's easy. You know, that's a good thing about what you're giving. And obviously there's more and more, it's evolving as well. You know, I keep seeing, I keep reading about the bits and pieces, that the add-ons, the bolt-ons that we can get now. So yeah, it's good, really good all around. You know, and I genuinely mean that as well. It really is. Take the good feedback of it over to whoever needs to hear it, because it is fantastic.
So, you know, the value of adoption. If you're investing in technology that is not going to be used by your teams, it's a complete waste of money. And as you can see from, you know, these videos and what's been discussed, the value of OpenSpace is driven because it's easy to adopt. It delivers value in multiple ways. And now, what I'll do is we've got a few questions that came in, so I'll start to address those. Keith asked about specific hardware. We partner with 360 camera companies. We don't build our own hardware. We're the software platform to support your teams. So we work with Insta360 and Ricoh. You can look on our website for our supported cameras, and you just need to get your camera, have an OpenSpace account. The app will open, connect to your camera. You have your sheets uploaded, and you just start your capture and off you go. So onboarding is as quick as 20 to 25 minutes to get your first project ready for capturing. Toon asked about case studies for asset management. I can definitely find some. If you could follow up with us, or if you have an OpenSpace account manager or salesperson you're working with, they can absolutely find you, case studies for asset management. It is an aspect of the entire life cycle that OpenSpace is supporting. So from bid to pre-construction, design, construction, and then the actual operation of the asset, which is 10x the construction lifetime typically. Michael had a question. Can you share a bit of info on how a 3D scan can be captured? What are the limitations? And how to export a 3D scan to CAD. So Autodesk Inventor. Okay, so the 3D scans, we're capturing a 360 image. We're not generating a point cloud that can be exported out. The point cloud, isn't as rich as, say, a terrestrial scanner. So we do import terrestrial scanner information. It's just a lot more dense. It is a complement to the OpenSpace workflow, right? You're not going to go out every week and do a terrestrial scan. But what you can do is capture on a daily basis, and you have the two paired together in the OpenSpace platform. Michael, if that didn't answer your question, please let me know. Let me see if there are others. Got one in the Q&A. Yep, Keith, I think I got your question answered with the specific hardware. There is a hard hat mount that you need. Those can be shipped to you by OpenSpace. And then, like I said, the camera you purchase, through Insta or Ricoh, and then obviously OpenSpace will supply the software for you. Perfect. Michael, I got yours. Can you actually accurately scale from a scan? So, David, with your question, if by scan you mean an imported terrestrial scan, yeah, you can pull measurements and things like that. The 360 imagery is overlaid onto the 2D sheet, so it is located in the real world. So in that aspect, yeah, things are relative to, the sheet, and it gives you the real world representation. To accurately scale, I'd need to know more, what would you need the scale for, or what are you looking for with the accurate scale? If you're referring to the OpenSpace image capture or the terrestrial scan that we can import. Have you seen the same use cases and value generated for infrastructure? Yeah, so OpenSpace is used on a wide variety of projects. Infrastructure is actually a growing aspect, and it's the first value is just the speed of capture. It doesn't take you long to capture an entire site. So you can, walk an infrastructure project. We have customers who will mount a camera to a truck and capture that way. So there's a variety of quickly capturing, and then you have the ability to reference it to the design model as well. Is it required to have a camera horizontal? Yeah, so OpenSpace does display the camera on, more of a horizontal mount. That's the way that we mount on the hard hat. It seems to be the most comfortable, and also it avoids you from knocking the camera off by not having it sticking straight up. but we can absolutely process the imagery if used vertical. We do have customers that use a selfie stick, and that would be the vertical orientation for the camera. Greg, how do you use OpenSpace for a sub punch list? Yeah, great question. So that would be leveraging the field notes tool. So being able to walk through an image or walk through a capture, you can leverage field notes in multiple ways. You can create a field note as you're doing a capture. So that's kind of a, two birds, one stone situation. You're already out doing the capture. You have your mobile device out. You see something you need to add to the punch. You snap a photo. If you want, you can, add a couple, notes to it, assign it out to the sub responsible. What will happen is OpenSpace will auto-locate that field note as you're doing the capture. So you don't have to remember, okay, I was in room 3 on level 2. Nope, because you're in the capture and OpenSpace has the orientation and places the capture in the 2D plan, it will also place the field note. After a capture, you can use the web or the mobile device to be viewing a capture, and there's a field note tool where you just tap and drop the field note in place and then go through your assignments on the field note to then set up your punch list, and you can track everything from who's it's assigned to, you can add data around custom tags. So you can break it up by, subcontractor type and adjust your statuses. And the field notes can be pushed out as well to the Autodesk Procore and Revisto platforms. Kevin, how often do folks typically capture? I can speak from, what I hear from my customers. Weekly is best practice, depending on the speed of the project. Some people will capture, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Some people are capturing daily. They just like having that consistent documentation to really understand what's happening on their job site. Nicole, and can it load from a drone? Drone imagery is definitely something that we're exploring right now. A couple of our founders came from the drone industry. So yes, becoming a platform for documentation and collaboration around imagery in general is something that OpenSpace is exploring. Can PDF references or hyperlinks be directly added to the scan? If I want to capture a picture of a close-up of a gauge or a scan or PNID, if something underground, is that a possibility? So yes, you can add PDF references and hyperlinks. What you would do is leverage that field note tool. So you would create a field note, add the close-up picture of, say, the gauge. And I've seen this used in a few cases of, like equipment. They'll take a picture of the equipment to document that it's been installed properly. They'll add, say, a PDF of the startup instructions, even upload a video of startup instructions, or record a gauge under test and have that all logged in the field note. And then it's associated with the location, and you get all of the information that you add into the field note that you can then, share out with an owner, share out with another person on the project, and export all of that information as well in a PDF report to share around. And Eva, thank you for posting the field notes in there. That's great. Can field notes from older captures? Yeah, so the field notes will, continue to be viewable within the capture. So you can adjust your view to have, a specific date. It will, show you field notes on that capture, but in the software, you can adjust it to show all or set it to specific dates. If you're trying to review the last month, you go and set the filter for the last month, and then you can view your field notes from there. Nicole, is it possible to group all the captures and field notes of specific unit to find it easier? We are building houses in a complex in different phases. Each phase could have 50 units. Okay, so my inspections are all under the specific phase. If I want to see all captures and field notes from a certain unit. Can I filter? Sorry, probably no, all good, Nicole. So for capturing in multifamily, we actually recommend, you know, especially if they're distinct units, you know, single family homes, for instance, is to capture by home, and then everything is locked to that capture and locked to that house. That way you'll be able to, you know, potentially deliver a handover package or use it in a sales effort to, you know, prove out, you know, certain inspections were hit, certain things were installed per, you know, specifications. So yeah, our team can work with you to set up the best ways of capturing for a, you know, multi-home project, and make sure that you're capturing, you know, in a way that allows you to keep everything together. So you mean separate projects? No, not necessarily separate projects, but within the project be able to do either groups of homes, or, you know, because we are sheet based, you can have the sheet specific to the home itself, and then you can click between the sheets. Without knowing exactly how your projects are set up, I can't give an exact answer, but it would be great to have a deeper dive on this, and explore how we could set up OpenSpace for you. Cool. Any further questions? Well, thank you, everyone. If you have any further questions, you know, you can reach out to me. My email is here. If you're working, you know, with an OpenSpace, you know, salesperson or account manager, you can reach out to them to do a deeper dive. And you can always go to our website, request a demo. We'll contact you to set up a demo and dive into your workflows and needs. Cost structure, Josh, great question. You know, we have a construction value based pricing model. So, you know, please contact us. We can show you OpenSpace. You'll understand the value, and then we can also give you some pricing for the projects you're looking to, you know, deploy OpenSpace on. And no, thank you, and have a wonderful end to the week, and enjoy your weekend. See you all soon. Bye.